Imagine yourself walking around in complete blackness. What you can feel when you walk around is like it's like you're walking on like wood floors, but you're surrounded by complete blackness, and it's just you. You're just walking around, and you walk for miles, and it's just black, just completely black. And and finally, you look at the floor, and then you see like there's an opening, and you can see um, there's an opening, and you can see there's like there's a puppet being manipulated, and it starts motioning to you to follow it to some kind of place that only exists within the somewhat um, weird imagination of a robot. You used to be a bus driver. Then one day you woke up and you were in some bizarre isolation chamber that was completely pitch black. It seemed to be even something that could not even possibly exist, and yet you found yourself there. Then you saw an opening. There was an opening on the floor, and a puppet guided you into the subconscious. No, the dreaming mind of a android or a robot. And it was that instant that you came to the conclusion that machine intelligence, artificial intelligence, could be possible. Not only is bizarro as that is as a concept that a machine can truly have. See, I think the central question of whether or not a machine can think or analyze is it kind of touches on the heart of at the heart of that matter is that does a human person, does the human form actually have a soul, or are we machines? And I think the whole examination of machine intelligence and artificial intelligence is it's a very it should shed some light on whether or not we do have a soul, because if it's impossible to imbue a machine with a soul, or a soul, a conscious, a fully conscious machine that can actually think and not just perform simple tasks, but a machine. I'm talking about a robot or an android that actually has a consciousness and can think, can analyze. It has abstract thinking capabilities. If we find that we can't accomplish that we can't create a machine that can think, a machine that has a human consciousness to it, then it doesn't prove necessarily that the soul exists, but it could be the basis for an argument for the existence of the soul, because that would show that we're not just flesh and blood machines, that there's a soul. I mean, and then then you stop and think that how could it even be possible that the soul exists? That thought does occur. How is it possible? You see a person died. Is there something that's kind of like separating from the body? Some kind of like some essence, some kind of, I don't know. You know. So, anyways, but I like the idea that here's a guy that somehow he entered the soul of a robot. I mean, he entered the dream the dreaming mind of a robot, and that's where he exists now inside a robot. The funny thing about robots is, do they have genders? Is there a male robot? Is there a female robot? And what would actually define the male robot as distinguished from the female robot? What would actually the hell am I talking about? What would actually what's the difference? Anyways, um, so okay, let's say this guy's name is Marvin, and he now exists within the dreaming mind of a robot. He's in the dreaming mind of a robot. His name is Marvin, and so now the robot, each day it becomes more and more sophisticated and more fully developed, and it starts to think. It starts to develop a consciousness. It starts to develop a soul. But what really is it? What is it? What does it really mean to be conscious? What is consciousness? What really is it? Um, some might say that consciousness is an epiphenomenon. It's a it's the product of the physical matter that is the brain. So it's considered an epiphenomenon. And the soul doesn't really exist. It's all just functionality. Others would say that the mind gives life to matter, and some people say that mind gives life to matter. Others would say that matter gives life to mind. But if matter does give life to mind, how did it get there in the first place? What brought it into existence? All I know is that I wish that right now I was on a bus filled with naked supermodels, and we are on our way to O'Hare Airport, and we are just about to board a plane headed for Honolulu. Once we got there, these naked supermodels would all be subject to my whims. Every type of possible, and I'm talking about world class women. I'm talking about just like from different different, all different places, small towns, big towns, but they're not just all just beautiful on the outside. There's a few of them are just like they've got a beauty to their talent is beautiful, or their mind is beautiful. They're different forms of beauty. But most of them are just physically beautiful. Okay, because I'm a guy. I'm a red-blooded American male. So that's. But then I'm a red-blooded American male who's not completely shallow. To me, what's best is if you can find a woman that's got both. If she's hot and she's got like a mind. I'm not one of those guys that just really just all I think about is like the same thing. Just you like to find a woman that you could really connect with at a very ethereal, or kind of like on a platonic level, don't you? But eh, if I ever worked in a factory, I think I would want it to be a factory that manufactures Halloween products, like masks, plastic skeletons, stuff like that. Because I'm a big horror movie fan, and I love all the type of memorabilia. I remember when I was a kid, there used to be a place that we used to go to where they just had Halloween stuff. And I don't want to give any free plugs out. Not just that, I don't want to like have anybody say like, "What the hell are you talking about? That's my company." Okay, so it was a company that it was a place that we went to in the suburbs, and they had this great. They had this like cider donuts, delicious. Right around Halloween, you would get that, and then they had like a. It's like when I was a kid, you wanted like the cool like gorilla costume or something. You wanted something like that, or you wanted like the Frankenstein costume, and you didn't want to just get like a thing where it was like it's like an apron and then like a plastic thing, like a mask that you put, the cheapest. It's like an apron with a drawing of Frankenstein and like a Frankenstein mask. That's for the kids whose like parents were like just trying to we were just kind of like struggling, I guess. But well, I wasn't rich either. Um, but it's like so I never got that. I never got all the cool stuff. I wasn't spoiled as a kid. But that's what I wanted. That's what everybody kid wants. But you just had to settle for the crap that we could afford. But then, if you had some rich parents, it would be so cool to get like you get the gorilla out costume, or you get like the Frankenstein costume. You get like, they had so much cool stuff that like, but we couldn't afford it. But at least it was a lot of fun to go there. They had like these delicious apple cider donuts, I think it was. Or no, cinnamon donuts. And you have it with apple cider. It was really good. It was like I hesitate to give the exact name because I'm live on YouTube. I don't know, you know, I should try to, to get some like paid sponsorship for that. So I'm not going to say the name of it, but it was a good place in the suburbs. Oh, hmm. Um, I mean, the gates of perception are not just limited to everyday experiences, everyday concerns, and the same old thing. The gates of perception can take your mind truly to higher levels of experience wherein you can be enlightened And it's a way to strengthen your psychology because once you really see the truth, bullshit it just doesn't matter. It's just something that you observe objectively. Your mind has to learn how to connect with things emotionally that are that walk a fine line between rationality and emotionality. There's a fine line, and both are part of the human psyche. But you want like the perfect balance of both, because as a person, you do want to experience your emotions. You want to you just got to know how it feels to feel each of the different emotions. But you also want to be rational and cut through the bullshit too. So that's how I approach life. Um, anyways, you know what would really be cool? You take a walk. I wonder if you could, how long it would take to walk from New York to California. I mean, let's say, okay, if there's a specific spot in New York, let's say Albany, New York, to Santa Barbara, California. Um, just a walk all the way there. I think that would be a cool idea for somebody who's like independently wealthy, retired, or whatever, and still physically capable of doing so, to walk all the way across the country and to be able to say that you did all the way and all the way back, how many days it would take. Because if you probably you could do such a thing, but let me try to figure this out mathematically. How many miles on my longest walk? I used to walk through Lincoln Park, and I used to walk all the way from my house on Lil Avenue all the way to the lake. I would either go right or left, and I really told it because it's like 2 miles. It was 2 miles from my house to Lake Michigan. I think in total it was like a 6 or 7 mile walk. It was a really good walk, but you did. Let's say you were able to walk seven. I mean, a conservative estimate, you were able to walk 7 miles a day. That's probably the. Some people who walk a lot more than that in a day, but after a while, I just really get sore if I walk much more than that. 7 miles a day, 7 days a week, 49 miles a week. Um, 52 weeks in a year was 49 times 52. 50, let's see, 50 times 50, 50 times 10 is 500. 50 times 50, therefore, would be 2,500. Let's say you were able to walk, okay, just a rough estimate, 3,000 miles a year. 3,000 miles a year. Oh, 3,000 miles a year. Okay, what is it, about three? It's a little bit over 3,000 miles from New York to California, somewhat. I mean, give or take. I think it's like 2,000 from here to California, something like 3,000, maybe a little bit less. I don't know, somewhere around there. I think it would take about a year of walking about. I don't know. Let's hope I got the math right on that. But like, let's say it takes a year to walk of a daily walk of like 7 miles a day for a year, and then you walk from. Is that right? Okay, 365 days a year, 7 days a week, seven times, yeah, 7 times 300 would be 2,100. Um, so yes, that sounds about right. If you were able to take a really long walk in a year, you could walk coast to coast. That would be so cool. So that would be a year of your life. You could walk from one coast of this country to the other coast. That would be fascinating. You can stop in roadside diners. You get to meet people in each different state. Um, you could, that's stop at diners, taking the local culture of each state. Decide what the itinerary is going to be. Decide if it's going to be like, I mean, there's different paths you can take, and the difference. it would just be a way to like really kind of like I think you would end up wiser, and I think you would really have your finger on the pulse after that. I mean, you'd really have a full understanding of the different types of people in this country, and maybe you would even have a better understanding on how to unify the country, just to know the difference, to know the similarities, and in so doing, you can learn how to reconcile differences and focus on strengths rather than weaknesses. Well, you would focus on what we share in common as opposed to what divides us. Then, once I was in Santa Barbara, California, I just hang out on the beach there, and I would just wait and see if Katy Perry actually happened to be there. Does Katy Perry still live in Santa Barbara? Katy Perry? I mean, Katy Perry. I don't know. Anyways, let's see. What else? What else do I got to talk about? Oh, I do have 2 listeners now, so I might as well keep talking. Um, hmm. 2 listeners. I'm holding on to these 2. Be sure. Oh, so this is Mike Meyer reporting live from Park Ridge, Illinois. So I know the title of my live stream is California Beach Titty Fuck, and the only reason I title that is that it grabs attention. But now that I have your attention, the show is really kind of just it's kind of an there's a lot of things involved in it. There's music, there's philosophy, there's scientific theory, there's just like you know movie scripts that I wrote. Um, yeah, I got 2 listeners. I hope you subscribe to my channel and tell your friends about my channel. And what I've been doing is I've been I have a roommate, and he's got a summer. He works, he works more during the school year as a teacher. So sometimes he's off during the summer. Um, so I do more of the music during the school year. But I was able to do music today because he has some kind of like teaching thing today. But so I'm getting a lot of views for the music. But I'm also right now when I have to be quieter because when he's home, he's kind of like. My other brother was more like, oh, he didn't care if I was loud, but this okay. Anyways, uh, but anyways, so I'm just doing something that's a little bit more quiet now, like a kind of a talky type of thing, and so I like that. I've written so many. I got notebooks filled with like poems, songs, stories, other people's songs. I spent a lot of time just like learning other people's songs and writing my own songs and. Let's see. So I wrote tons of stories, tons of this goes way back for years. Because what I discovered is like what you've got like these creative decisions to make when you want to be a writer. You're very lucky if you're published, if somebody actually publishes you. But then there's a lot of people trying to write books, a lot of people trying to get published, a lot of people manuscripts or plays, books, and all kinds of things, and they're not getting published. And for just stories and just everything. But if you're a writer, you must write. You have to write. If you consider yourself to have the heart of a writer, you just write it, and you hope that someday you can cash in on it. And if you do, you can make some serious money off of writing. But if you don't, in the process, you still have a great time doing it. And that's what I'm doing right now. Having a great time with it, hoping to cash in on it someday. Um, let's see. Um, hmm. um, what else do I have to say? Yeah, I've got horror stories. I got comedic stories. I've got all kinds of stuff. Um, because it's interesting. It's like there's another creative decision. When you want to be a writer, it's like, what do you write about? Do you write about real life events? Do you rely on current events and you just like put your own spin on it? Do you try to find some insight into like political issues that are happening? A lot of people do that, or do you try to find more innovative ways to write and just kind of things that are like it's hard to find originality in writing, but I think there is limitless potential for originality in different forms of writing. And that's what you got to find, and that's what is going to distinguish you as a writer. If you really want to be a serious writer, you've got to find like you know, people copy off each other. That's a fact. I mean, people are inspired by each other. Just the very form of writing is you're copying off somebody else because that person's a writer now. You are too. But so you got to find originality within. But there is a such thing, I think, though, as like pure originality. That's kind of like that's the ultimate goal of great writing is to find pure originality to where you can't trace it back to any original source. If you can find that, then I think you are a visionary, original type of artist. But even if you can trace your writing or your music or whatever it is, whatever art form it is, you can trace it back to original inspiration, original source. Even if even if that is the case, then you could still be considered a very inspired, very important artist, even if it's not 100% original. Because if there's some originality within that, if that work that you've contributed to the art world, if there's some kind of originality within that, then it's an important contribution. I'll see you next week for some more live streams. Bye. I hope you subscribe to my YouTube channel.